Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, chunashumme, washmale. Ohio Gonzaimes, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa hal, Haleshama Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, Swabia, Balli Kare, Hosh Galdin, and Ayosaya, Huya Mora, Chivato Chiha, Jot Kali Mera, Khairutan, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV1 and watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned co-host, who happens to be Miss Hajar Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody is having a great day so far, and that everybody is doing wonderfully well, and that you have a heart full of gratitude, where you're always thankful to your Creator, your Lord, your Allah Almighty. Hello Hajar, Assalamu Alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum Assalam. Thank you so much for introducing me, and congratulations for increasing your vocabulary of lots of salams and good mornings. And it feels
I thought you were going to speak about our salary too.
That's very true. And Alhamdulillah, thank you so much. And when you talk about being gratitude, heart full of gratitude for Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, I think that's the biggest blessing to have, especially in an era and in an age where there is so much materialism around, right? And where you find your peace to be a very wavering sort of a thing. But Shahzad, you asked me some question yesterday, and I would like to ask you, so how do you define your peace? I mean, state of peace or contentment. So what is peace and contentment for you?
Okay, so peace and contentment for me is to, not worry about my tomorrow. I think that's what peace and contentment is for me. And that's something certainly which I wasn't practicing for a longer period of time in my life. But Alhamdulillah, I believe that now I've realized that, that every single day that Allah gives me or bestows an opportunity with me or on me, I make sure that I'll only focus on that. So I'm not focusing on what I will be 5 years down the line, because that's most of the time what the FMCG companies ask you in an interview. Right. But I'm not focused on that. What I'm focused on is that every single day when Allah gives me an opportunity, am I doing justice with it? Am I giving it my 100%? And if I am, that means that the next 5 years are going to be wonderful for me too as well. And that's how you really need to hold that rope very tight, that rope of faith that we call. And it's a humble suggestion or a submission for people out there, that only if you start to focus on what is at your end, at that very point in time, and you give it your 100%, you will see that success will always be around you, inshallah. I think that was a wonderful answer, right? I wasn't even prepared, and you didn't even tell me beforehand. So thank you, shukr, alhamdulillah, and a heart full of gratitude, ladies and gentlemen, will always help you. But today, we have some very special and amazing guests over here in the studios, and before we introduce them, let's take a good look at the top story, what's happening inside Pakistan and on this globe we call Earth.
Right. So caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haque Kakar has said the caretaker government is working within the constitutional framework. He was interacting with the media at Pakistani High Commission in London. He also said that there are no favourites in political parties. Answering to a question, caretaker Prime Minister said anyone who is challenging the state and social order must be held accountable. Adding to that, caretaker Prime Minister highlighted that he can assure that no one will be booked on the false charges. Talking about the Indian hegemonic agenda, caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haque Kakar said Hindutva ideology is widening its hatred agenda across the world, and also added that Modi regime is passing discriminatory laws against the minorities in India. And I think that was a very successful conclusion of a very successful visit to United Nations General Assembly, where he talked about global issues, where he talked about national issues, how they're interlinked with the global issues. And especially I would like to talk about how the Sikh Canadian was killed, and how India boasts of killing it, and instead of repenting and regretting it, they're openly claiming it, and they're saying that such sort of transnational murders are allowed in the international order, and this is not how it should be, especially because I think this is one of the form of the foreign interference in the affairs of one of the sovereign territory of a particular country in the first place.
Exactly, and thank you so much for
if we encourage that, I think that is going to create a lot of chaos in the global order. So such kind of activities should be discouraged in the first place.
Exactly, and we certainly do condemn it and any such sort of an activity. But now, Hajra, coming back to what we're talking about, so I've already given it away that today it's going to be one of the most amazing episodes that you've ever witnessed. So we've already, we speak about Pakistan, we speak about, other countries, Pakistan shared relationships and whatnot. But, specifically today we will be focusing on Central Asia. There's a reason why we're focusing on Central Asia. So imagine that, if we are going to talk about Genghis Khan today, or if you're going to talk about Babur, or if we are to talk about 5 Sufi orders,
Or
what-
Al-Farabi.
yeah, or Al-Arabi. And so what certainly do you think that it rings a bell why I'm actually talking about all of this?
Of course, it does ring a bell with me, and I think, but we would like to, I will demystify that for our audiences in the first place, because we are going to talk about the Kazakh history and how the Kazakh history is interconnected with South Asia. And I think we humans are one race. So if in every culture, we can always find things that are common, that had a common thread that combines us as a one whole human family. But specifically when we talk about the Central Asia, since it's a very proximate region to South Asia, particularly, we had trade, we had intellectual exchanges, spiritual exchanges, we had trade exchanges in the first place, and we had very commonalities in our cultures that defines us, or that brings us, and that creates lots of convergences, right? So why not talk about all of these, because we are very glad that we have been joined by some very worthy guests in our studio who have graced us, and we are going to talk about our intellectual history, our religious history, spiritual history, trade relations, whatnot, and how we are.
So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by the ambassador of Kazakhstan to Pakistan, His Excellency Yazan Kostafin. Hello, assalamu alaikum, khairutan. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam, alhamdulillah, everything is good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. But at this point of time, I would really like to appreciate the concerted efforts of the Kazakh government, and it's because of the fact that, imagine that they made sure that they're going to take on board younger generations of historians who are going to come and share with us that what actually happened and what was happening and how rich their history was, maybe the culture, maybe the norms, the values and whatnot. So ladies and gentlemen, to kind of come across, a younger generation historian is something which for me is like and even for Haj and our entire team is like a dream come true, because it's very rare to see. And then particularly in my, I think, a decade's career, I've never seen a government taking such an initiative, and I do believe that it's going to kind of unfold so many amazing stories which people might not have known so far. So if you are to learn about Kazakhstan, today is the day, because we're very lucky that we've been joined by Professor Yakslik Sabitov. Hello, assalamu alaikum, khairutan, good morning.
Walaikum assalam. Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have
That's wonderful. And whenever a professor is sitting here, I am very delighted and glad, because I am deeply invested in the research and academic activities. But Professor, we would like to throw you this question. And when we talk about Soviet Union, when we talk about Kazakhstan, obviously Soviet Union, the Kazakh people were closely tied with the Soviet people, right? And how Soviet Union tried to clamp down on the religious history, we all know. But after the independence, we are seeing that things are reshaping. How are Kazakhs trying to reclaim back their Islamic heritage in the first place? Because you are a historian and obviously you know a lot about it.
I think in our history in Soviet era we had three negative trends.
Right.
First, they take Islam from our history, and we
De-Islamify that.
were without any religion. And they try that Kazakhs are not good Muslims, they are just Muslims by surface, but it's false.
Right.
Second, they take some national states from our history, for example, Golden Horde, and they told that Golden Horde is bad state, but we know that it's not bad state, it's the same state as another medieval states. They have the same quality and the same
Exactly.
history, yeah.
Literature.
They not good or bad, it's like it's our history. And also they try to make our history small and invisible.
Right.
That's why we try to change these 3 points.
Exactly, and I will come back to these 3 points, but let me move on towards His Excellency. And His Excellency, so, first of all, as I've mentioned that in my decades career of hosting this morning show, I've never seen a government taking initiative where they've taken on board younger historians to come and kind of revive their historical values, maybe culture, norms, and whatever it beholds. So how do you believe that, that this very visionary move of the Kazakh government is actually going to help the younger generations learn better about their history?
In fact, our president, His Excellency Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, several times he stressed that we need to invest heavily in science and in exploring our history. In fact, what we are trying to do, and I'm really happy that today we have one of the brightest representative of the young generation of historians. They are trying to find those parts that were, I would say, hidden or forgotten during the Soviet era, and we try to reassess, to revise our history, to understand what we had in the past, in the real situations. And the idea is to bring this knowledge to our young generation, to strengthen our national identity, to understand who we are.
Exactly, and how important it is to strengthen our national identity with the help of history.
You know, in fact, without knowing the past, you cannot build your future.
True.
So this is why we are heavily, our government is heavily investing into exploring our history. And you know, one of the part of our history is dedicated to relations with South Asia.
True.
You know, last time when I visited your great show, I was talking about growing agenda between Kazakhstan and Pakistan. And I always say that when it comes to bilateral cooperation, we should not be limited only to our economic agenda. There are a lot of avenues that we should also explore. And one of them, and in which we have a very, you know, it's a kind of one of the top priorities for us, is education.
Right.
Within the framework of this very important field, we are developing relations between universities, and we want to strengthen ties between experts, between scientists.
Right.
And this is one of the first steps upon the invitation of our embassy, Professor Jakslik.
And that's exactly what we want to take advantage of today. So, Professor, moving back to you now, where His Excellency has mentioned that, you know, there were a few parts of our history which were forgotten, which were taken away from the Kazakh people. Can you please, first of all, shed some light onto those parts of history which people might have forgotten or the subcontinent might not know, may it be Central or South Asia, please?
Можно привести?
Да, какие забытые периоды истории. Расскажите о взаимодействии Центральной и
Yeah,
Южной Азии.
we have a lot of connection between our regions, between Central and South Asia. It began from ancient period. You know that Kushan Empire, they come from our territory. It was Yuezhi nomads who fight against our ancestors, Hunnu tribe, and after they collapse, they come to South Asia and they make Kushan Empire. It's one of the biggest empire of the ancient period.
Right.
Also, we have a lot of connection in medieval age. For example, you know, Delhi Sultanate. It's the founders of Delhi Sultanate come from our steppe, from our territory. Also, another nomads come to Pakistan and establish new states. For example, Ghaznevid, they come from August tribe. Also, I belong to Argun tribe, and my relatives of my ancestors come from 15th century to Uzbekistan. Also, then they come to Pakistan, and they established state in Sindh province.
Okay.
It's like Argun and Tarkhan dynasty, and we try to translate these sources about our common history, because they come from our territory and rule this territory. And it's really interesting for us to find
it's even
new
interesting
facts.
for us to know that, you know, that they came down to the Sindh province of Pakistan. You know, so I believe that it's interesting for everybody.
That's wonderful. And Professor, I would also like to throw you this question, because being a student of history, I am always interested in how the religion plays a role in the politics, right? And in the West, there's this concept that we need to dehyphenate religion and the politics. But in Islam, there is no such sort of conception, right? It has always been an integral part of our life, the religion and the politics, right? So when we talk about the modern day Kazakhstan, right, obviously in the Soviet era, there was a very heavy clampdown on any religious activities, be it the Sufi orders, be it any sort of an activity, because they wanted to create an atheistic state, right? But now, since the independence, there has been a turnaround, right? And Kazakhs are claiming back their Islamic identity, Islamic roots. So being an historian, since Al-Farabi is from that land, so how are you, and what sort of research did you yield out, especially when it comes to an Islamic history in the first place?
Yeah, in our history we have two facts about the Islam and our state.
Right.
First, in 960,
Right. Right.
Our ruler, our Khan, adopt Islam as a state religion.
Right.
And he used Islam to make the state stronger.
Right.
And he established new state, Karahanid state. They have good impact in world history.
Right.
They have a lot of architecture, coins, a lot of culture.
Right.
Also, second is Islam in Golden Court.
Right.
In Golden Court, Uzbek Khan adopt Islam as a state religion.
Right.
He also used Islam to make state stronger.
Right.
And most of our ancestors of all our tribes, they were murids in Sufi orders.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we have 5 Sufi orders,
Sure,
and different tribes have different connections with these Sufi orders. I can tell about
Sure,
the
sure,
Sufi
sure.
orders. Yeah, first is Mevlevi. Mevlevi, it's like they came from Minor Asia. They connected with Jalaluddin Rumi, and they have connections with Mangit tribe and another tribes. You know Jalaluddin Rumi.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Second order is Kubravia. They connected with the first Khan who adopted Islam, Berke Khan in Golden Court. He was half Mongol, half Kipchak, half Oghuz. And his mother was Muslim, and he became Muslim and was the first Muslim Khan in Golden Court.
Right.
Third is Yasaviya order. It's like connected with Ahmed Yasavi.
Right.
Fourth is like Ishkiya order. Now it's a branch of Naqshbandiya,
Okay.
but
Yep,
in the
yep.
medieval era it was a different order.
Right, right.
And fifth is Naqshbandi order. You know
Yes.
this order. Yeah.
Exactly.
And let's talk more about the Sufi order, because Sufism sprouted from Central Asia and then it spread across the world, and now we see that there are lots of debates in the Western world about Sufi teachings, about Jalaluddin Rumi and meditation and all of this stuff to reclaim back our inner peace. But also there's one aspect of the Sufi history, which is that they've always resisted the colonial order in the first place, right? So when we talk about Central Asia, what sort of relationship existed between the Sufi order and between resisting the colonialism, and especially when we talk about the Russification that went through and very radically in the Kazakhstan?
Русификация, влияние суфизма,
Борьба с суфизмом, да?
участие суфизма в борьбе за независимость.
Yes, we have a lot of facts about our national heroes who tried to fight against aggression, and they were really connected with the Sufi orders.
Wonderful.
For example, it was one national hero. It's unknown in here, but we know him. It's Maral Shan.
Okay.
He was uncle of our last Kazakh Khan in Sare, and he bring Quran from Bukhara. And this Quran was written in Pakistan territory.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and go to Bukhara, then go to the north of Kazakhstan,
Right.
and he used Islam to collect people and to fight against aggression.
Right.
Exactly, and which is why it is very important now to kind of ask Your Excellency that when we talk about the pre-colonial era, and now when we talk about the colonialism which took place, and then the post-colonial identity, it's really important for the generations to come to a kind of understand, because imagine that when we speak of the pre-colonial era, we do understand that the history is written. We have a younger generation of historians who speak about it. But now with the post-colonial identity, how do you plan on achieving it that, okay, each and every child of Kazakhstan would know that, okay, that's what our identity is and that's where we belong? And what area is the government working on in making sure, maybe the syllabi, maybe the schools,
Right.
the teachers, the professors themselves?
And state narrative, particularly when we talk about post-colonial identity.
You see, in fact, what all we want is to know our history.
True.
Okay.
Different sides of our history, and we want to know the real history. We do not want to follow again this false methodology developed by the Soviets, and this
Right.
is the main issue.
Right.
And this is why, as I said, our government and as President His Excellency Kassym-Jomart Tokayev many times mentioned that we need to invest into developing our science, our history, and the main idea is to develop a brand new program for our young generation,
Exactly.
for our schools, for our universities, to reassess our history and to bring them the knowledge about the truth,
True.
what we had in the past. We're not going to cut, I would say, kind of tragic pages of our history.
True.
We should know everything. It's a part of our history, it's a part of our identity, it's a part of our nation. And this is why, now we are trying to explore different parts, and we are developing, by the way, our relations with foreign countries. For example, some of our historians, they went to the Rome, and they met with those people who are in charge for these archives
Wonderful.
based in
Right.
Rome.
Right.
And they're still there?
Yes, they are
Wonderful.
still there, and they are trying to use these archives to, to find new sources,
Wonderful.
to fill these gaps that we have today.
Right.
And I believe that through developing cooperation between historians of Pakistan and Kazakhstan, we can also learn more new
Yes,
facts
like-
about
yes.
our cooperation, about our people. So, and it will be mutually beneficial. Through this collaboration, we can learn more about our own history.
And I was about to mention this. So imagine that, if a Quran was written over here in
Yes,
Pakistan and then
yes,
it was
yeah.
taken over there, I believe that there are more avenues. So,
Yeah.
if we are to talk about more avenues, because the last time that you were here, Your Excellency, we spoke about how, the economic circumference can actually be enhanced, made sure that, that we cooperate on different
Right.
fronts. Now, when we talk about more avenues, obviously there's spiritual leaders, there are people, who can contribute towards the history of the Central Asian and South Asian region. What do you believe can be or more avenues? There can be student exchange programs, our students studying in universities in Kazakhstan, Kazakh students coming over here in Pakistan. These are the few areas which I can comprehend. But what more goals, bigger goals, does the Kazakh government have to achieve?
What we are doing today, in fact, we are implementing the agenda that we had discussed with you during my last visit to a great show. For example, we are developing sports diplomacy.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, we organized a Zoom call between presidents of the Gulf federations.
Right.
What we want to do, we want to develop, cooperation between our athletes, and it's well known that golf is a kind of game for wealthy people. So
Exactly.
it is also about establishing good connections between our business people. 2 months ago, upon our invitation, we had a president of the Grappling Federation. It's a type of wrestling. So he has very famous in Kazakhstan academies of martial arts. So our idea is to establish his academies here in Pakistan, and to bring our coaches, to bring our knowledge. This is about sports diplomacy. About cultural diplomacy, it is well known that in Lahore, for example, you have one of the biggest museums in South Asia,
True.
Museum Lahore
Yes.
Museum.
Yes.
So what we want to arrange cooperation between our museums,
Wonderful.
to organize exhibitions.
Yes.
And again, to learn more about our history.
That's-
And even within
Kazakhstan.
libraries, I believe that that we can still do wonders.
Yeah.
So imagine
yeah,
going
sure.
to your libraries and people
Of
from
course.
Kazakhstan visiting our
Of
libraries.
course.
And while we're at it, do you play golf yourself, sir?
I'm planning to start my golf
the gentleman.
classes, but
Identify, Your Excellency.
That's wonderful. So now moving on to Professor Sabitov. So since while we were researching about the Kazakh history, so I came across a very prominent name when we talk about the literature, poetry and resistance, and that is Abai Kunan Bayuli, and he wrote a book of words, right? So for our audiences, Pakistani audiences who are not aware of his literature, please let us know what were his teachings about and what did he taught you about in the first place.
Abay Konbayev was the founder of modern Kazakh literature.
Wonderful.
We have a lot of dialects, and he make
Right.
one literature language. He was a great person. Maybe if you ask Kazakhs, can you tell me 3 national heroes? He will be one of them.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. And what was his teachings about?
He had works on philosophy and ethics, and a lot of thoughts about our history, about
Right.
our destiny, about our nation.
Right.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so last 2 questions before we wrap it up.
Right.
Number one, obviously, when we talk about history and culture, we really need to figure out similarities in between Pakistani and the Kazakh
Right.
people. So how do you see that we are similar culture-wise? Religion, obviously, alhamdulillah, we are a Muslim majority country. We since we all happen to be Muslims, alhamdulillah, we do know how peaceful. We do live with minorities as well, and that's what our religion tells us. But when it comes down to joint family system, when it comes down to our women not allowing us to marry again, things like that, what sort of cultural similarities do we see in between Kazakh and Pakistani people historically?
As for me, I don't know Pakistan culture. It's
Sure,
new
sure,
world
sure.
for me.
Sure.
But I can I can talk about genetic history and genetic
Sure.
connections.
Go ahead.
For example, I made my DNA test, and a lot of matches of my DNA lives in Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and some Arab countries.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
that's exactly what I thought when I saw you. I was like, okay, I think people have been, I have been born in the wrong place. I will need to be in Kazakhstan then. Yes, please continue.
If we study the genetic history of Pakistan nation, we can have a lot of connections because we know a lot of ancient DNA and modern DNA,
Right.
and we see that there are big, strong connection between our regions. It's
Exactly.
really good.
Wow, that's wonderful. So towards the end, Your Excellency, if there's anything you would want to mention, please, that's your camera. It was wonderful to have you over here. And one last thing, and that is that now when we talk about the post-colonial history, what sort of mediums do you think that the Kazakh government is going to take advantage of in making sure that they instill the right historical values within the future generations of Kazakhstan?
So the main idea is to, as I said, to strengthen our national identity, and in order to avoid those mistakes that we made in the past, we are trying to learn, our lessons, and the idea is to understand what can be done for future generations, for generations to come, to finally make our nation successful and wealthy.
Wow,
This is
that's
the main
wonderful. Thank you
idea.
so much, Your
Thank you so
Excellency,
much.
for being
Thank
with
you.
us. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so much.
Professor,
Thank
for
you so
being
much.
with us. It was lovely to have you over here early in the morning, and that too to learn about
Absolutely.
Kazakhstan. And why not? So when we talk about tourism, I believe that every individual, because when me and Haja, we were researching about Kazakhstan, and not today only, obviously, because His Excellency was here on the show earlier as well.
Right.
I came across pictures which were so scenic, which was so beautiful. So imagine, where it's landlocked, and then yet you see such amazing scenic mountains, hills, flowers and whatnot, and you're like, okay, yeah,
That
I
reminds
believe
you
that,
of the
one day
northern
we need to
areas,
take
yeah.
out time. Probably our producer might one day think of, taking us over there as well.
Right.
And, we go and we record our programs.
Right.
Why am I talking about it? Because I believe that tourism certainly needs to play a role. And why tourism? Because today happens to be the World Tourism Day. We will be talking about it right after a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Khairutan. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying tuned. And as we, before we headed out towards a short break, we did mention that it happens to be World Tourism Day. And when we talk about Pakistan in particular, I do see that, and I do believe, and I can confirm you this, and there's a complete affirmation on this, and that is that, that our tourism industry is actually going to see some changes which are going to have the most positive impact in days to come. But while we are talking about World Tourism Day, we have a phenomenal personality over here sitting amongst us who actually thought about hospitality industry when I think I was only probably 4 years old. I was still in my diapers. Yes, exactly.
I wasn't born then.
Okay,
See?
that's fine too. Okay, that's fine too. But we're going to
Okay.
share a video with you guys.
Right.
First, please go ahead, take a good look at it, and then once you guys will come back, we'll be introducing this amazing gentleman over here inside the studios, reshaping the tourism industry of Pakistan.
मेरे देश में नहीं इससे भी
Our country, Pakistan, has a lot of potential regarding tourism because of its diverse and well-preserved culture. From the Do Darya in Karachi and Gawada Port in Balochistan to Bachahi Mosque in Lahore and beautiful valleys of north like Hunza and Sust. Every part of Pakistan has its own culture and language, which makes it even more interesting. Among other factors attracting the tourists, the hospitable nature of Pakistan's society, mouth-watering food, architectural, cultural and archaeological allures are also its features. Fertile, green, mountainous valleys are characteristics of Azad Kashmir's geography, making it one of the most beautiful regions of the subcontinent. Lipa Valley, Khari Sharif, Pir Chanasi, Ramkot Fort are the must-go places for the tourists.
बात ये कश्मीर है, बात ये कश्मीर है, बात
The Gilgit-Baltistan is famous for its magnificent glaciers, and these glaciers feed rivers that account for 75% of the stored water supply in the country. This province is very famous among tourists because of Bandhar Valley, Gopas, Chandhur and Satpara Lake. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is known as the tourist hotspot for adventurers and explorers. The province has varied landscape ranging from rugged mountains, valleys, hills and dense agriculture farms. The region is well known for its ancestral roots. Famous spots are Lake Saif al-Malook, Ansu Lake, Mashpuri and Kailash Valley. The land of five rivers, Punjab, reminds you of richness and royalty. The lush green state is widely famous for its rich heritage, food, tradition and culture. But more than anything else, Punjab is known for Punjabis. The most famous spots are Wazir Khan Mosque, Tomb of Jahangir, Rohtas Fort and Lahore Fort. Historical Sindh is known for its distinct culture, which is strongly influenced by Sufism, an important marker of Sindh identity for both Hindus and Muslims. Most famous tourism places are Clifton Beach, Karachi, Mohenjo-daro, Ferrari Hall, Kinjhar Lake and Qaid's Mausoleum. Baloch people have a strong sense of respect for the culture their forefathers left them with, and they do everything in their power to carry it on for the generations who are to follow. In Balochistan, we have Bashin Valley, Gawadar, Astola Island and Meherghar. Anam Shehzad, PTV World News.
And that's what we call beautiful Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen. Without any further ado, we're very lucky that we've been joined by somebody who happens to be the Chief Operating Officer of Harshu Group Hospitality and Education Division, and he is Mr. Haseeb A. Gardezi. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Walaikum assalam and very good morning.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. And on the occasion of World Tourism Day, there was an interview of yours which got printed just yesterday.
Yeah.
So I would want to get my conversation started from there onwards, because you in your interview have mentioned that that Pakistan is poised to see remarkable transformation in the tourism industry. How do you see that, number one, and what sort of transformation are we talking about, and what sort of significance do you believe that this day holds for each and every one of us when we speak about World Tourism Day?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You see, you have just run a small video about Pakistan, and I'm sure in our age, yes, people may not have knew this, but now the young generation, because of social media, because of your programs and all that, knows about Pakistan. Then one blessing has happened, or it was not a blessing, but it was a disguise, that the COVID happened.
Yes.
And the world actually became not that accessible as it used to be. So what happened that Pakistanis, the young generation started looking at, they wanted to go out of their homes, and they started going to the places they never thought existed.
True.
And now today, if you see the growth on the hospitality sector and tourism sector, I mean, when you go to northern areas, it's huge. Every house has become a hotel, every individual has become a tour guide. So it is actually bringing a lot of opportunity. However, where the surge in tourism has started, we have not played our responsible role, which is actually creating a lot of difficulty. And your program today about the green Pakistan is what is the need of the hour.
But
Exactly.
sir, we constantly keep hearing this term about green investment, and the theme is tourism and the green investment,
Yes.
right? And then there's another school of thought that is very critical of this term, and that says out that there's a lot of greenwashing going on, right? So it's just a marketing gimmick, and companies or corporate sector is not interested in having a more green transition towards that, right? So how do you see this very interesting debate rolling out, especially when we talk about corporate social responsibility, and like you mentioned that our practices are not very ethical when it comes to tourism industry, because when you talk about tourism industry and preserving the virgin beauty of our northern areas, it's very important that we should have a more responsible tourism, more ethical tourism that should not litter out
More sustainable.
Yes, yes.
So I think there is a theory and there is a practical.
Yes.
Theoretically, we all talk about green tourism. We all are sitting here and talking about it. But let's be honest, when we would travel,
Right.
do you think that we start from our own self? Do we not open our windows and throw the garbage outside our windows? Right?
Alhamdulillah, sir, it's been years now I haven't
Yeah,
done that.
so there are people who are responsible. Is the education institution playing their role that when the student goes into the school at the very, very primary level, do we tell them what responsibility is? You look at Japan. You know, I was surprised to see that in one of the videos that WhatsApp video came, that from the school, they don't hire any janitorials and all that. It's the kids that they are being told how to clean the toilets and how to, wherever you sit, you clean it up. Ek to responsibility, one of the responsibility is the institution and education has to play.
True.
So that all those young generation coming up should know about green. The other thing is we also need to understand what is green tourism.
Right.
Do we really know about it? So, for example, everybody is talking about Bijli ka bill and things like that,
Right.
that it is so we have got this renewable energy situation like the solars and all that. Have the institutions gone?
Solar
Houses,
system,
yes, because you can't really afford the bill. So you said, what should I do? The people said that you put the solar on and you are going to get less bill. But the responsibility comes with the bigger organizations like us, like our other competitor hotels and other places. They need to start that. They need to come up with the renewable energy situation. They need to make sure that their garbage collections and all. We should not be adding to the methane of the world.
True.
You know, Pakistan is one of the largest methane contributor in our in the atmosphere. So which means that everybody needs to play a role. So when you look at even the cities, every house has garbage, every hotel has a garbage, every shop has. Do you have a garbage disposal system? So that needs to be done. Now this cannot be done by individuals. This has to be done by the will of the government. But the government alone cannot do it unless all stakeholders comes forward and do that. I think there is a need of educating the public at large what green means. Green is not only trees and all that. Green is your responsibility. Even the silencer of your car, if it is not right, that's your responsibility because you are adding to the destruction of the atmosphere.
Exactly, and thank you so much for referring to it, because I do believe that a lot of people do get rid of their catalytic converters, you know, which are actually installed within their silencers, and it actually reduces the gas emissions as well. So please don't take it away. They take it away because then people or the mechanics would tell them that, hey, you know what, this is not required, but it is required for the well-being of the people. And this is one thing which I'm witness to, because in recent times I've traveled too much. I've been to Karachi, I've been to Lahore, and most of the time it has always been a pleasure to stay with Hashu Group, you know. So imagine whether I was in Karachi or Lahore.
Wonderful.
So in Lahore, my room we shared that even at the mosque at the PC Hotel Lahore had solar plates on top of it. Even with the parking plaza, there were solar plates on top of it, and
Right.
it was good to see that how they have recognized they really need to move on
Are you
towards
thinking of
renewable,
installing solar in
renewable
your
energy resources. You know, so certainly I was on rent. You know, I couldn't think, but utilizing that
Okay,
energy
wonderful.
resource was beautiful. But sir, one more question, and that is that when we talk about sustainable practices, I would want to kind of connect it with how the business sector works over here. So imagine that Pakistan is densely populated, and 1 out of every 4 jobs happen to be within the field of hospitality. How do you think that businesses now within the tourism sector can take advantage of this massive human resource we have at our disposal but are not taken advantage of?
See, even if you go today to the hotels, irrespective of Hashu Group or any, and then you ask that you need to know who is working in the kitchen, you would be surprised. The people inside the kitchen who are actual cook, who are actually producing food, are hardly from Islamabad or Lahore, right? They would be either from Gilgit-Baltistan, they will be from KPK, they will be from a smaller cities, right? They come here and do that. Now question is, have we developed infrastructure in these places for them to stay near their house? Have we created a local employment opportunities? Have we created this, that if, for example, today any big company goes and open a hotel in Hunza or Gilgit or Baltistan, why they need to take the entire management from either Lahore, Karachi, Hasib, Gardezi and other? No,
Right.
you need to make sure you need to give back to the community, and when you need to give back to the community, you mean that you need to train that particular individuals who are working over there. You can't have a fair, oh yaar inhone to just in Urdu, inhone to baki ki jagah dekhi nahi hai. That's fine, but we had opportunity, they did not. I think the time has come that we need to start looking at the marginalized communities.
Yes.
We need to start giving the job opportunities to the locals and pay our actual responsible role, instead of using social responsibility as a cliche for the corporate
Or
world.
marketing gimmick. And thank you so much for pointing it out, because that brings us to a very interesting conversation and a question, and which is linked to hospitality and tourism industry, which is that how we can integrate locals, because they act as a guide there, right? But are they invested enough? I mean, or do they have some sort of education or investment on them that they can act as a guide? Because obviously most of the time when you go out and ask them for their directions, they are the one who are going to guide them, right? And in the hospitality sector, when you talk about it, so how does Hashu Group ensures that you are integrating the element of local people into your strategy
And
in the
before
first
you
place?
answer it, it's a very interesting dialogue, and there's a reason. So imagine not every local from every locality is actually going to be full of help. You know, I think
Of
that's
course,
something
that's why I'm
which everybody
asking,
needs
na?
to
Yeah.
understand,
And-
because just
and we-
very recently I've had this experience
of course.
of being in conversation with the locals at a private hotel, and it wasn't really overwhelming.
Because
so
they need
please.
investment, lot of investment,
They,
trainings. Yeah.
see that even these locals, hypothetically speaking, I am living in Lahore for quite a number of years now.
Yes.
How many times I have visited Badshai Mosque, or how many times I visited the zoo, and how many times I have visited the fort?
Right.
Very few times.
Okay.
That does not mean because I live in Lahore, I know about these things more than somebody who is coming from outside, who actually had a whole detail that I would go to zoo, I will go to Badshai Mosque and all that. Nevertheless, the people living in those communities are very well aware that is.
Of course.
True.
The guide does not have to tell you everything that you are looking for. Even a storyteller for a
Yes.
traveler
Yes.
is great. If you go to Jheel Saiful Malook,
Oh, yeah.
there are storytellers.
That's
They are
true.
sitting on the stone somewhere and they will tell you the story. Now, would you come back and go to Chat GPT and see that the guy what was saying is right or wrong? No. At that particular time, they mesmerizes you and they tell you that how beautiful this area was. As far as Hashu Group is concerned, we have very recently opened a hotel, Pearl Continental Legacy Hotel in Hunza.
Wonderful.
And I am very proud to tell that 90% is the local employment, and out of it 60% is a female employment.
Mashallah.
Wonderful.
And this comes because our owners, Mr. Murtaza Hashwani and Saduddin Hashwani, has a commitment towards giving back to the community, and they have been doing it. You would see we are the only group hotel who has been opening hotel irrespective whatever the country's economic condition has been, but our growth has never stopped. That's why by 2026, 27, we'll have 62 hotels across Pakistan. So we are very proud of it, but we are not the only one playing this role. Many other hotel companies have come up, the new startup has come up, and they are actually playing a greater role in making sure that this economic indicators keep on improving.
And I do second your statement, because on multiple occasions I've had the honor of being on a dinner table with Saduddin Hashwani
Yeah,
Sahab, and he would
absolutely.
always reiterate that and how he
Absolutely.
wants to contribute towards
Absolutely.
the country itself and its economy. But now, sir, let's move down to where we're talking about green tourism now. So we're on World Tourism Day. What are those technologies which people might still be unaware of? Because imagine that, we were an agrarian society. I still do not agree that we are still an agrarian society. And it's because of the fact that, we certainly did not really take advantage of the technology which was available at the right time. Now with the hospitality industry and now with tourism and with so many people coming down, I mean, if we are to talk about in terms of GDP globally, it's at $9 trillion.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of can get their chunk. So what sort of technological advantages are out there which we might still be unaware of in terms of green tourism?
Okay, so net zero is a world initiative. Pakistan is now the member of that initiative.
Okay.
And out of that, Pakistan has actually encouraged the corporate companies to come and become part of it. So Hashu Group also is now signing, has already signed the net zero initiative.
Wonderful.
You see, there are many things that we are doing. For example, everybody talks about plastic. Single-use plastic is bad, but if it is not a single-use plastic, then it's fine. If it is recyclable, you can still use that kind of situation. We are going to the glass bottles now.
Yes.
A lot of hotels and a lot of people are going back to the glass bottles. Many people are going back to renewable energies. We have we now need to stop also. See, we love barbecue, but we don't understand the burning of the coal brings in a lot of acha.
Right.
Now in the world there are coals which give you the same barbecue flavor, but they do not do any harm to the environment.
Okay.
True.
But it will take while before our small hotels and small restaurant also understands that. The government has to play a greater role into the regulation, into putting together the laws and also facilitating the situation. Then comes use of these plastic hangers and things like that. We need to get away from we need to get away from them. Then coming up using your lot of shampoo, and we need to go in an organic side.
Right.
I mean, there is a lot of soap that goes into your water and things like that. Also, the water that is being not recycled is also a waste of. Now, if you look at gentlemen in many places, they will keep the tap open and then they are shaving, but they don't understand it takes 1 minute to to put the tap down. हम जब वुज़ू करते हैं,
Right.
हालांकि मैंने कई जगह पे पढ़ा है कि वाटर कंजर्वेशन इस्लाम में उसका बहुत ज़्यादा वो है कि जी आपने अपने रिसोर्सेज, जब हम वुज़ू भी करते हैं हमने टैप खोली होती है और वो कर रहे होते हैं so that nobody can, but these are the things that we need to understand, that even the society needs to play its role.
An individual needs
An individual needs to play its role. As far as the hospitality is concerned, the environment organizations of Pakistan must understand any new building, hotels are being built, they must not allow them until unless they have enough drainage and unless they have disposal garbage disposal areas. There has to be compact disposals. I mean, you need to employ your resources to make sure, and also employees are to be aware that they should not create any difficulty for environment.
Exactly. And sir, thank you so much for concluding it so well for our audiences and for us as well. But one last question. So Hajra, first of all, do you remember that whenever we used to go to 5-star hotels, there's always this refrigerated, there's a lot of chocolates in it. What do we call it? There's a special name to it, right? What do we call that place, because in the mini bar, right?
Okay.
So mini bar. So sir, one last question. I'm very sorry that I'm posing this question to you.
Problem.
Do you think in days to come there will be a day when 5 stars are going to offer mini bars for free? Because that costs us too much every time we go to a 5-star hotel.
I do not know whether we'll able to give you mini bar for free, but we
Considering
are looking at something, and other hotels, around the world has done. They have taken the mini bar out. Okay. The fridge is only there, but they have created a nice convenience store within the hotels where you go and buy the things what you like.
Okay.
Not that Haseeb Gardezi, being a manager, want to give you nuts and want to give you a chocolate or want to. Maybe you are more savvy towards energy bar or anything. So I think that time may come.
And I'm really sorry I have to interject here and cut you short, but I think one message that stands out is that as an individual, we need to work on cutting our carbon footprint, because that is the need of the hour. This is how we're going to make it more sustainable. So until next time, it's a goodbye and thank you so much, sir, for coming.
1, 2, 3, good morning.